Alright, how are we doing, everybody? Listen, we just had some breaking news. Some terrible news, some shocking news, unfortunately. If you are Charles Oliveira, you've probably seen it. By now, if you're Charles Oliveira, the title fight will not take place. He came in heavy. Charles Oliveira came in right at the end of the 2-hour window, so that was starting to worry us. Then he came. He got on the scales. He was 1 pound over. He stripped down to his underpants. He was half a pound over very heavy underpants. Perhaps they were sweaty, perhaps they had some condensation in them. He certainly had too much condensation in his body. That's for sure, because he was then given an hour. He went away, tried to cut the way back, and didn't make weight. Yeah, shocking situation, and now Charles Oliveira has been stripped of the belt, and if we look here, look at this, we've got OBS TMZ. The headline here is that UFC Charles Oliveira was stripped of the lightweight title after missing weight. Of course, that is not what Charles Oliveira wants to be known for. I mean, this is bad no matter how you slice it, and I feel bad for the poor guy. I have sympathy, but it's limited sympathy, it really is. If we look at it as just engaging, nothing changes. Just engage. You will still be fighting for the belt, of course, for Charles Oliveira has not been stripped. I don't think this is the right terminology. He's been forced to vacate. So he will have to vacate the belt tomorrow night. He will still fight, but he doesn't have the opportunity to win. Anthony Evans, who used to be the UFC's head of public relations, was talking to me and said, "This is ridiculous. The commissioners need to get up to date and up to speed, because being half a pound over isn't an advantage. It is not a physical advantage." And he's right. It's not a physical advantage, but unfortunately, you have to draw a line in the sand. If it's a non-title fight, you get a pound allowance. If it is a title fight, there is zero allowance, and you can't start arguing, or, maybe it's because it's not a physical advantage, so therefore we'll let that slide. Well, then it becomes a pound, and it's 2 pounds, or whatever the fact is, 155. That's the limit. That's what you sign a contract for, and that's what he never showed up for. And I knew at the time that because you have a 2-hour window to weigh in, the sooner you weigh in, the better, because then you have a longer time to recover, to rehydrate, to take on board nutrients. What you want to do is have many small meals. You don't want to stuff your face. That'll make you feel sick. You'll feel nauseous. You won't absorb all the nutrients. You need lots of small meals. You need naps. You need lots of electrolytes. Lots of rehydration. It's a whole process, and the more time you have, the better, because you want to get a few periods of sleep in there as well, so I knew when he was coming in at the last minute that this was not a good sign. Who's to blame ultimately is Charlie Oliveira. Oliveira just came to an end. Charles Oliveira's run has just ended because he was half a pound over, and I feel for the guy. I really do. This is such a shame for him. She might still win tomorrow night, and we'll get to that in a second. He might still win the fight. Okay, but if you look at him here on the scale, look at the look in his eyes, the expression on his face says it all. All I mean is, there's a man that's suffering. He's got his hands in the air. That's an old trick that fighters do to try, they think it's going to make them lighter. It doesn't work. I even used to get on the scale. When you breathe out, you're trying to make yourself as light as possible, so the poor guy's trying to do everything he can, but none of that stuff works for you at the weight you're at now. So for Justin, if he can go out there and win the fight, he'll become the lightweight champion of the world. For Charles Oliveira, though, he's been forced to vacate, so if he wins, I don't think he's reinstated as the champion again. There will be no champion. I mean, what a situation. What a mess. Let's be honest, I like Charles. I'm a huge fan of his. He's got the most submissions in the history of the UFC. That's a great record. He's just made another record. He's the only UFC fighter to ever get stripped or forced to vacate his belt because he missed weight. Now he's not mutually exclusive in terms of championship fights and fighters not making weight. That has happened a few times. I'm going to go through a list of those in just a minute, but he's the first ever standing champion to be forced to vacate his belt because he came in heavy, and it's a bad situation. Ultimately, the blame lies with Charles Oliveira. I've seen it many times. There are no names, but fighters blame people. You know, they'll blame their coaches. They blame their nutritionist. They blame their strength and conditioning culture. Whatever it is, it's the fighter's fault, and again, I'm not trying. I'm a fan of Charles. I really and strongly sympathize with him in this situation. I do, but the book stops with the fighter. It is the fighter that is responsible. We know what we're putting in our bodies. We also know what work we're doing if we're getting out of bed. While we're doing the road work, we're pushing ourselves in sparring. We're doing whatever it takes to lose weight. Charles is a very experienced fighter. He's a dominant champion, for crying out loud. You know, when you get out of bed, all fighters, the regime is this: you get out of bed in the morning, you step on the scale and you look at the scale, and you have got, oh, great, this is good, or you go. I'm heavy, I've got to make some tweaks. I've got to run a little extra. I've got to do longer training sessions. I've got to cut back. Back on the carbs, I've got to make changes. We know we get on the scale every single day. Any fighter that struggles to make weight or has a target and has pounds to lose has a target to lose. What do they do first thing in the morning when they get out of bed? Before they eat anything, they try and take a piss. They try and get themselves as light as possible, and then they step on the scale. They hope and they pray so you can pass the bug. You can point the finger. You can try and blame somebody else, but ultimately it's down to the fighter now. How will that affect things in the future? I mean, look at him here. If you take a look in the eye there, he's at a terrible weight cut, so we've got to think he had 2 hours to make weight. Well, by the way, the wake up starts the night. In fact, the weight cut starts on a Monday. The weight could start because you load your body up with what's called distilled water. We pound distilled water to flush out toxins, to flush out salts. Sodium eradicates the carbs we cut out. You should completely avoid carbs because every gram of carb you consume damages your body. This temporarily holds on to 4 grams of water weight. That's why you know these fad diets, they'll say you do this diet. You are guaranteed to lose X number of pounds in, yes, the first week. Because you're eradicating the carbs, and as I say, if you're not taking in the carbs, you let go of water. You let go. You feel bloated, you let go of the excess water weight, but you can't continue losing weight at that rate. You know, that's why those fat diets, they're good for the first week, but that's about it now. Tomorrow night the fight is still going. Thank God, because could you imagine if Charles Oliveira didn't make weight? Which he didn't, and the fight didn't go well. You know, I mean, that would just be unbelievable if the fight was to take place, but the belt wouldn't be on the line because Charles never made weight. I thought that might have been a scenario at first. I thought that was such a shame for Charles. Oliver, sorry for just engaging because it's not fair, because he did his part if he should win the fight, and if he was to win, he should become the champion of the world. Well, now as we know that is the case, as I was saying before, we have to start all week. We cut weight the night before the fight, as well as the morning of the weigh-in. We finished the wake-up, and 2 hours later, he never did it. Then he had another hour, I never did it. The body at some point just stops losing water weight, and it's a horrible feeling, and you're dying inside. Do you know what I mean? I can't understand this, because earlier in the week, Charles, I'm sorry for earlier in the day. This morning he tweeted weight check, pesos check, as if to I say everything's fine. I'm assuming he thought that he was on track and everything was going well, but as I say, there comes a point where your body just you can't give anymore. You've given everything that there is to give. It's crazy because Oliver used to make 145. He used to be a featherweight. I know, so I think he's got a little too. Perhaps he's dining out. Filet mignon every single night now that he's champion of the world, and rightly so, but you are responsible for your weight now. Tomorrow night you have to bet on it if you're going to bet on it. Bet the house on Charles Oliveira. The momentum is on his side because Charles Oliveira will be number one. He's just come in so demoralized that he's just been forced to vacate. Whatever you want to call it, he's not. I am not the champion of the world anymore. That is such a way to lose your belt. He had the road he took to become champion described as the long way around. He was on a tear and had just beaten Michael Chandler, beat Dustin Poirier, destined to go down as one of the greatest ever if he was to just engage it, but he lost it to the scale. I mean, he is so depressed right now. He was so sad. He's angry. He has all these emotions. He's feeling sorry for himself. That's going for now. There is a possibility that he uses this as momentum, as motivation to put on the performance of his life and destroy just engaging and saying, hey, I want my belt back in the very next fight, but there's also a good possibility that he's got a defeatist attitude now and doesn't really show up to the fight. I mean, he's going to show up to the fight, but I mean show up as the best version of himself for just engaging. Whoa baby, we're cooking the gas, the ball is rolling, the momentum is on his side, and not to mention the physical effects of a 5-round fight, it's a long time. It's a taxing time. It is hard on the system when you go through those kinds of. You are almost there. You know, that's why I would like this. This trend is a whole wake-up phenomenon. To be fair, I'd like to see this fashion, this thing that we all do that I did. I'd like to see everyone step up. Up away from class because it affects you. The better the performance and the longer the fight, the more you go, the more tired you feel when it starts getting to rounds 3, 4, and at 5 you feel like waking up. You feel that you were sitting in a sauna trying to do, you know what I mean? We're not trying to kill ourselves, you know, but you're almost killing yourself, not to mention the effect. The ability to take a punch has not been lost. It is diminished when you go through in those weight cuts, you don't take a punch. As well, not to mention the potential for long-term damage as well, if you take a lot of concussive blows now. This isn't the first time that this has happened. Sadly, there is a history of this happening and I'm going to go through I have a little list of some of them right now for you, so. Here we see the history of the UFC title. UFC 56 Joel Riggs' fight is cancelled. Missed weight when he took on Matthews. The fight went ahead, and at UFC 67, Travis Luther faced off against Anderson Silva. The fight went ahead as a non-title fight because Travis Luther never made the weight. Which is unfortunate because there should be an extra defense on the record of Anderson Silva. You know he was UFC 206, you got robbed on that one. Pettis failed to make weight against featherweight champion Max Holloway. Pettis dropped a weight class to challenge Max Holloway and didn't win. Weigh UFC 213 Yoel Romero, where are you? Is he? Let's take a look at this. Well, there he is, old Joe, on the scale right there looking very defeatist. He missed the hold on what's going on here. We've got ads on the I'm trying something new here, guys. You've seen me, but there are the bloody hats on piss-off ads there. Boom. There we go. We go there. We go Yo Romero versus Luke Rockhold. I actually missed it, sadly, but what? What else do we have? As I previously stated, you miss waiting. Luke Rockhold could win the belt. Luke Rockhold was sexually assaulted by Yoel Romero that night, and he won the fight. I kissed him all over the place. If you remember that one, what else? Of course, Romero missed weight again. This time, the opponent is Robert Whittaker. Whittaker won the fight as well, so there is a history of that. He is not the only person to do it, so listen. It's a disappointing turn of events, really is. Charles Oliveira, you gotta learn from this man. I hope he can come back and become a champion again. Because what a fitting way to conclude during what was to be a glorious reign of the Oliveira. Charles Oliveira was incredible. He was bringing so much excitement and the most submissions. It's a disgrace. And I'm sure he's got lots of people to blame, but the only person he can really truly be blamed when he looks at himself in the mirror is himself. We, as fighters, are the ones that are ultimately responsible. So listen, that's such a shame. It's such a disappointment just to engage Charles Oliveira, though it's still going down. There's also a massive undercard featuring Rosemary, Eunice, Carla Esparza, and all the other great fights. Cerrone, Joe Lozon, and all the rest of it, but yeah, I had to come on. I mean, I was doing We Could Have a Weight show hosted by BT Sport. I could not believe what was unfolding. The tension was palpable. I just engaged. What is your child's teacher going to tell you about tomorrow night? Make sure you come. I'll be doing a live stream on my channel tomorrow afternoon. It's a pre-show, so I'll answer your questions. Send it to me. I'm going to do an interaction. You can see I'm up in the software game. What else have we got? I'm going to do a post-show. I'm gonna do an instant reaction video live while the fights are on, so lots and lots to come back to the channel, and thank you for subscribing. Ring the bell and you take care of yourself. Enjoy the rest of your day, and if you're a professional fighter, make sure you watch your weight.